So everybody, this is going to be a video kind of outlining how we think about a specific kind of learning in animals called conditioned learning. And this is a type of learning where humans are in control of the learning. But it's a small category of a larger category of learning called trial and error. And many animals learn through trial and error. You learn through trial and error, fish and worms and birds and every kind of animal, for the most part, learns at some point through trial and error. So we're going to show you the steps of this. You're going to control the process of learning in a chicken next week. And by doing that, I'm hoping that you'll start to understand how the environment might control the process of learning in an animal. Not as intentionally as you do, but through a series of steps that leads to learning in animals. So, you all should be looking at your notes. They look like this. And we are going to begin with a little video that you've seen before. So you remember this chicken. Pecks a dot, gets a bite of food, pecks a dot, gets a bite of food. If you don't remember this, you're missing an assignment from week 4, Ed puzzle assignment. So we see a series of training steps. We're not going to watch the whole thing here. They add a green dot. Chicken's initially confused, but then is right back at it. So the first thing I'd like you to consider in here is, how did the dot pecking behavior develop? So this is the question and the right format for a development question. And your task right now is to write about how this behavior could have developed. You don't need to know all the steps that the person went through. What I'm looking for is a general prediction. I'd like you to go to your notes on development and look up how we predict an answer to this question. How did any behavior, but in this case dot pecking behavior, develop? You're going to have to identify which parts of the behavior that chicken were doing do you think were innate. Now, some of you got confused on this last week when you were asked to do this. All behaviors, including behaviors that are learned, have some innate behaviors that are involved in what they do. So you're looking for those things that the chicken can do without any experience, that a baby chick just does as a result of its genetic programming. Okay? Simple things. And then the learning is the process of the trainer taking those innate behaviors, things chickens would do already, and shaping them, or giving the chicken some experiences that say, hey, when you do this behavior or you do it in this way, you get food, right? So pause, take a minute, and write here about how the behavior developed, and then make sure you can check all of these things off. And if you can't, you need to go to your notes assignment. It's in your Google Drive on behavior development. It's the assignment from last week. If you can't do this, this is a critical skill that I'd like you to practice. Okay, and go and review if you can't do it. So pause and go and do that. Okay. All right. I hope everybody's back. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more information about what conditioned learning is. So there are a couple of different kinds of learning that occur. And today we're going to learn specifically about a type of learning called trial and error learning. And this picture kind of illustrates that, right? Little kid's got some different shaped blocks in a box, and he's trying different holes until he finds the right one. The next time he picks up that red square block, it's likely that he will put it into that square right off, because he has learned through trial and error. And the environment gave him feedback. He tried it in the star, that didn't work, so that's kind of a punishment. He tried it in the circle, that didn't work, so that's a punishment. He tries it in the square and it works, and that's exciting, so that's a reward for him. So the environment gave him feedback. Now, conditioned learning is a specific type. Let me see if I can find my notes here on that. Well, conditioned learning is a specific type of trial and error learning where a person controls the rewards and punishments to create a new behavior. Okay. And I'll show you more about what that is in a second, but this is what conditioned learning is. It's a specific kind of trial and error learning where a person controls the rewards and punishments, giving the person or the individual that's learning, or the bird or whatever it is, feedback and shaping new behavior. Compare this to the kind of learning we saw last week with the woman who was in the waiting room and she learned to stand up every time a beep sounded. That was mimicry learning. That's learning by watching other people and then imitating their behavior, right? The other people aren't directly forcing you to do the behavior. You're watching and learning that way. It's not trial and error. You just watch and learn. Okay, so that's comparing and contrasting mimicry learning. Again, that's the next thing that you should do. So pause your notes and try to describe what is conditioned learning and what is mimicry learning. Okay. Now, the last couple things have to do with how to condition learning, how to create a behavior in an animal by conditioning. So if you remember this video that we watched of the bumblebees, you saw they gave the bumblebees some sugar water, right? And then they slowly made it more and more difficult for the bee to get the flower. The bee learned that it could pull out the flower, and through a series of small steps, the bee eventually learned to pull on the string and get the flower out to get the sugar. Now, each time the bee performed it correctly, it was trying something. If it tried it correctly, it got a reward, right? And if it didn't do it correctly, it got a punishment. Okay? So they're only showing us the final stage here. This would have taken much longer than 1 minute. This would have probably taken hours and days of training. And so not every time would the bee have gotten it this way. There would have been some times when the bee wasn't rewarded. She had there trying to just eat it directly. He's getting punished for that. That's not working. Look at him sticking his tongue out. Not working. All that is he's trying and he's making a mistake. So then he's going to have to try something else. If he pulls on the string and pulls on the circle, then he can get it out. Okay. So that's trial and error learning. There are two main kinds of experiences animals can have. Okay, they can have either punishments or rewards. And these are the definitions. So a reinforcement or a reward is something that'll increase the frequency of behavior. So that makes the behavior happen more often. This is when you praise someone or give them food or something like that. Punishment, on the other hand, decreases the frequency of behavior. If you get punished for doing a behavior, it makes it less likely that you're going to do the behavior. So there you have the two types of experiences that an animal can experience while they're learning through trial and error, reinforcements and punishments. And I'd like you to give some examples from the chicken video, right? What did the trainer use to reinforce the behavior or make it more likely? What did they do when the chicken pecked the wrong dot? Okay, that would be the punishment that they gave. So fill this table out, okay? These last two, we will talk about in class. So if you will submit a PDF copy of your notes up to this point, that's all I need for right now. But make sure you file this document somewhere where you can easily find it, right? Put it in your Google Docs or Google Drive in a folder for animal behavior. Make sure the title is in there. And put your name on it so that I can find it easily. And hopefully you will see some of these things when you see me training a student, and then you will be able to use these things yourself when it comes to training your own chicken.